It's Monday, January 30th. Welcome to the News Diet. Today, I'm going to talk about Tyre Nichols, his arrest, the protests since the release of the police body cam footage, and the complicated conversation around race and policing. Let's be informed so we can get on with our day. But before we dive in, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're finding the content of this channel helpful for you. It's the most impactful thing you could do to support this show, so if you haven't yet, I would love for you to become a regular viewer by subscribing. On Friday evening, the city of Memphis, Tennessee released police body cam footage of a police encounter with 29-year-old black man Tyre Nichols, which ultimately resulted in his death. This encounter was from January 7th. Nichols was pronounced dead 3 days later on January 10th, and then the footage was released last Friday, the 27th, which has caught the attention of the country as the videos released show an intense beating of Nichols by 5 police officers after being pulled over. The videos have sparked protests around the country by racial justice activists and police reform advocates in Memphis, where the incident took place, and also other cities like Washington, D.C., New York City, Sacramento, and others. So let's talk about what happened, because while violent police encounters have been a hot topic for several years now, this case is a little different, as all 5 police officers involved are black. Usually, the viral stories are cases focused on white officers who have killed black citizens, which has fueled a national debate about racism in law enforcement. But here, the black-on-black dynamic has added an extra layer to the conversation. I'll get into all this in a second, but first, let's just go over what happened. So on January 7th at 8:24 p.m., officers pulled over Nichols at a residential neighborhood intersection. Nichols was actually only a few blocks away from the house he lived in with his mom and stepdad. Now, it's not yet clear why Nichols was pulled over in the first place. According to the New York Times, the Memphis Police Department first said that the stop had to do with reckless driving. But then later, Memphis Police Chief Davis said that the department has yet to confirm the official reason. This is really unfortunate because I think that in any scenario, context matters. And while the footage we have does seem to show an unprovoked, violent overreaction from the officers, it's just always frustrating to have missing answers and to try and piece together a situation only going off the most intense moments. So unfortunately, the cause of the encounter is still in the air. But what we do know, and what's shown in the footage, is that from the start, tensions were already really high. Here's a clip of the initial traffic stop.
You get your ass blown the fuck out! Get the fuck out the car! Get the fuck out the fucking car! Damn, I didn't do anything! Hey, I didn't turn your ass around! Alright. On the ground. Hey, you don't do that, okay? Get on the fucking ground! Get on the ground! Okay. I'm tase your ass! Alright, I'm on the ground. Lay down! Yes, sir. Lay down! Please get on the ground! I think to tase you! Get on the ground! Lay down! One, now! I'm tasing him. Alright, okay. Turn your bitch ass right now. Break your shit. Okay, dude, damn. Turn the fuck around. Put your fucking hands behind your back. Bitch, put your hands behind your back. Okay, stop. I'm gonna knock your ass the fuck out. You guys are really doing a lot right now. Bro, lay down. I'm just trying to go home. Lay down. Man, if you don't lay down. Oh, I am on the ground. Put your hands behind your stomach. I got it. You ready? Okay. Get the fuck back. Stop! I'm not doing it. Please. Oh, shit.
What you see towards the end of that clip is Nichols breaking free of the officers after a stun gun was used and fleeing down the street. I mentioned earlier that the traffic stop was only a few blocks from his mother's house. Well, when he ran, he managed to get to only about 60 yards from the house before being detained again. And this is where the officers are shown beating him until medical help arrives. I'm going to show that clip for those who want to see the footage, but for those who don't, I've created a chapter right after the clip, so you can just skip to that now. So for those who didn't watch, the beating can be broken down to about 2 kicks to the face, 3 swings of a baton, a couple sprays of some kind of chemical, and 6 punches to the head, all within about 3 minutes, and much of this after he's already been handcuffed. After the altercation, Nichols is propped up against a car where he appears to be critically injured. Medics arrive a few minutes later, and 16 minutes after arrival, provide medical care before taking him away in an ambulance. After his death, 3 days later, an autopsy report said that he had suffered excessive bleeding caused by a severe beating. The 5 police officers involved have already been fired, and on Thursday were all charged with second-degree murder, kidnapping, aggravated assault, along with other charges. The particular unit that these officers were a part of, called the Scorpion Unit, has also been disbanded, citing a cloud of dishonor. And Police Chief Davis called the incident, quote, heinous, reckless, and inhumane. Like we've seen with other deadly police encounters like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and more, the death of Tyre Nichols is drawing a strong reaction from all over the country. I mentioned the protests that unfolded over the weekend. President Biden has already invited Nichols' parents to the State of the Union address, and activists against police brutality have come out with their condemnations as well. Civil rights activist Al Sharpton called the police officers a, quote, disgrace to our race. Former President Obama and Michelle Obama tweeted, the vicious, unjustified beating of Tyre Nichols and his ultimate death at the hands of 5 Memphis police officers is just the latest painful reminder of how far America still has to go in fixing how we police our streets. And former President Trump said, quote, I thought it was terrible. He was in such trouble. He was just being pummeled. Now that should never have happened. Now, this case is adding a layer to the conversation of police brutality that we don't normally see in these headline-making stories, meaning the cases we all know, like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, have been white-on-black encounters, which has led to the common narrative that the police force is systemically racist towards black and brown people, treating minorities more violently than white citizens. But here, with the dynamic being black on black, the question is how much does racism play within the larger conversation of police brutality? For example, a few years back, I had a conversation with social commentator and writer Coleman Hughes about this topic. He's written and spoken extensively about his findings that the cases that capture national attention are only a piece of the story. He says that white-on-white encounters rarely make headlines, so the narrative is unbalanced. He suggests that maybe the issue of police brutality is more of an issue on its own, as opposed to one solely tied to minorities. The Nichols situation would seem on the surface to support that theory. But racial justice activists like Ibram Kendi carry the belief that the killing of black citizens by the police is rooted in racism regardless of the race of the officers who carried out the violence. In response to Nichols' killing, he wrote, "The history of the police is the racist history of violence. Cops of all races have been empowered and socialized to brutalize, terrorize, and exploit particularly black people with near total impunity." In other words, that law enforcement as an institution is racist, not just individuals within it. With all 5 officers in this case charged, investigations and maybe even a trial will likely shed more light on what exactly happened here, how this altercation escalated to what we all saw, and more into the officers, and why not just one, but all 5 engaged in beating this man to death. You've just been informed, and now it's time to get on with your day. I'm Michelle Carroll. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode and want to continue following a healthier alternative for staying informed, where I forgo partisan fighting and fear-driven narratives and just get to the point, then please be sure to hit that subscribe button, as of course you'll get more of this show in your feed, and also you'll be helping this new channel grow and reject sensational media. Thank you so much for your support, and I can't wait to see you in the next episode.